Hello, we are live and we are here to take your questions today. So traditionally, the first Thursday of the month, we do a live Q&A session. So you get to be the person that sets the agenda and talks about what you need to talk about. And as you're joining either live or on the replay, please know you can type in the comments, ask questions there. I will always come back and look afterwards and answer any new questions. So welcome. I am Charmaine Tanner. I am a parent, a retired teacher, and advocate, and also the author of this Amazon bestseller, The Art of Advocacy. And I love connecting with you, and I am hoping that you will ask some of those questions that are like bugging you. And I know because this is March 2021, some school districts are going to start going back full time after their spring break. So let us know in the comments if that's what's happening with your child. I know some parents in some states that no, they're still, in school full time. A lot of people are on that hybrid schedule. Let us know what's happening in your school district, because one of the things that we want to start thinking about in March is transitioning to that next year, right? So your child may be transitioning to a new school, like from elementary school to middle school, or your child may be transitioning to a new grade, like from kindergarten to first, fourth to fifth, something like that. And there are things that you can do this spring to help you with that transition process. And so let me know. I have a really good ebook, and I couldn't find it this morning, laid my hands on it, but I'll post a link if you're interested. I have a transition ebook that I really like because what I did is I took what the parent needs to be thinking about this spring as far as transitioning to the new school year, what the teachers need to be thinking about, what the general ed teacher, the special ed teacher need to be thinking and doing this spring to help your child ready for next school year. And what you often don't see is I also included what your child can be doing this spring. And the things for your kids that I suggest, and of course it kind of depends, right, on your child's age, but the kinds of things that I suggest is to help our kids, increase that self-determination that they have. And so, making choices, understanding, what happens sometimes when we make a certain choice, being able to speak up and say when they need help, or please don't help me now. So anyway, I have that great transition book. Cam from Iowa is here. You're in Florida. Oh my goodness. I'm sure the weather is so much better in Florida than Iowa. How fun. Welcome. And Trisha from Idaho, she says, we are just getting in a good groove with kids back in the building, and it's already start to plan for next year. I know. That's like, so today might not be the day you want to plan for that. But yeah, I mean, the more proactive we are now, we have a smoother beginning of the fall. So I'm sorry, Trisha. But the good news is what you want to capture is all of those good things that are making it this nice groove that everybody's in, right? So figure out what those variables are and see then, is this going to be appropriate to, try to replicate that, these variables in the fall so things will go better? Yes, I know. Oh yeah, Kimberly says much more humidity in Florida, a little bit different, right? So anyway, if you're interested, like I said, I'll post a link in the comments and you can get that, ebook about transitioning. And you can wait till later if you want to, Trisha. Because then I also have a summer book of what you can be doing. But yeah, so if you have questions about that, pop those in. If I know during the springtime, a lot of IEP teams are coming back together and talking about extended school year, whether or not your child is eligible for that. So if you have questions about ESY today and want to answer or ask those ESY questions, the other thing that makes life more interesting is you may also be considering asking for a meeting to talk about compensatory education services. And it's not to put blame on anybody, but the reality is a lot of our kids have lost a lot of educational time. So that's one of your rights as a parent, is to request an IEP meeting and talk about, what we see, and are there some educational services that the district can provide to somehow, right, try to make up for that lost time. Hey, Tamara, how are you? How's your weather? It's so fun when we have people all around the country, right? So, Tamara, do you have any questions today? Or, hey, Heather's there. So, Heather, I don't know where Kim is. Maybe you can get together in Florida. But let me know. I'm going to take a sip of water here, what your questions are. So what else is going on? This is like a super busy IEP season for advocates, but they're really, there might be a little bit of a lull in December, but I stay pretty consistently busy through the school year. But so this month, this will be the only live show I'm doing here on my Facebook page, because with spring break and IEP meetings, it's like my calendar is full. So somebody be brave and pop in a question. Heather and Kim are part of our Trailblazer group. And I know, Heather, I need to respond to your question about the email in our Trailblazer group. So I will do that after the show. Some of the other questions that I've been getting from parents are looking at, if they've had private testing done and the district doesn't seem like they're open to including any of that private testing information. And so the hard part is districts only have to consider outside evaluations. And of course, that word consider is open to interpretation, right? But that's the problem. I mean, they are not mandated to take an outside evaluation you've had from like a private therapist or, a neuropsych that you had done or something like that. They're not mandated to take that information and use it in the IEP, include it in the IEP. So it depends. I think most of the time, school districts will include the information. If you're really getting a lot of pushback, one suggestion that I have for parents is then just ask the district to copy and paste that private testing information into your parent concern box in the IEP. Alrighty? Hey, Tamara. So she says, my IEP on Monday, didn't work out well. Oh, I was gaslighted. And that's the very topic we're going to be talking about tonight in our Trailblazer group. How interesting. Phrases like, we don't do parent training, really. Your son will never be independent in these areas, are very depressing. Yeah. Oh, Tamara. Shoot. So did you guys come to, any kind of agreement, or disagree, or, are you having another IEP meeting? Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's so hard and sometimes it's because I think school districts don't know that parent training can be a service that they offer, and it can be written in the IEP plan under supplemental aids and services. So some districts don't realize that, and so they say, no, we don't do parent training. Some districts probably recognize that that's one of their responsibilities, but it is like rarely ever talked about at an IEP meeting or offered or discussed. So that's really disappointing, Tamara. And it's when you walk away from those meetings and you just keep remembering those negatives, it can be like really depressing. And so, if there's something specific that we could help brainstorm, for you, let us know. Trisha has a question. Her 8-year-old autistic son will be coming home from residential treatment in May. He has had ESY in the past. Can I ask for that again, even with him having been gone from February to May? Sure, because ESY in most states and in Idaho is based on a lot of times people will say regression. So if your child doesn't have continuous schooling when there's breaks from the school year, will they forget a lot of their skills? And then a lot of times the second prong that they look at is recoupment. So if your child loses skills over vacation times, how long does it take for them to get those skills back? And so sometimes districts only make the decision on those two points, but you need to look at your state regs, because a lot of times there's other factors in there that, again, aren't being talked about at IEP meetings. And so, I can also put in a link I have for a little ebook on extended school year. But because I think the point that you probably want to make, Trisha, with your son is, one, just kids generally on the spectrum really need that continuity, and especially when there's a long break like summer, to be able to, maintain those skills. One of the big things about ESY is pretty much, I think, in every state, it's not there to teach your child new skills over the summer. It's just to maintain, which is sad, but it's just to maintain their current skills. But I think, Trish, given that the district has given him ESY before, I think it's fine. Will he, I guess the other question is to look at his status in the district. Does he have to be officially re-enrolled, or I don't know how they did that. So that might be something to look at. But he should be able to get ESY again. Let me see. Tamara, she said, we did because they hurried me, but I will reject parts of the IEP again. It's hard because it's like, how many back and forths does it take sometimes to get a well-written IEP? And then, the next part is, how do you get them to implement the IEP with fidelity, right? Because you can have a well-written IEP, if it doesn't, nobody implements it, it's not really a very helpful document, right? Thanks. She said, okay, this helps. Thank you. You are welcome. And what else? What else is going on in your minds with springtime in bloom? Like I said, I think, let's see, Kimberly, I think kids have been going full-time. Heather, I know your son is at home for virtual learning, but Tamara, so how is your school district doing it? Is it on a hybrid schedule, back full-time? I know there's a lot of districts in Idaho that are going to go back full-time in the school building after spring break, so the end of March, beginning of April. And so that in itself is another transition, right? If your child has been doing virtual and then is going back full-time, that's a really big transition. Probably if your child is doing hybrid, where they're home a couple days, at school a couple days, going back full-time is going to be most likely a less of a, transition, new routine to get into. But all of those changes for some of our kids, like those are like really huge. So to be thinking about that too, if there is going to be a big change coming up as far as after spring break and how school's going to go, you might think about how you're going to help your child navigate that. Hey there, Anne Marie. She says, hello, how would you recommend going about requesting to repeat? So, yeah, I think, you need to be able to map out, jot down, bullet point the reasons why you think that would be beneficial to your child. And then you could also make a list of things that you think would be harmful if your child, didn't repeat and went on. A lot of school districts, I think, around the country are hesitant to retain kids. And there's a lot of research that people can bring up for either point. I mean, you can find research that says, no, don't retain kids. You can find research that says, yes, that can be beneficial. I think if your child is on an IEP, one of the things that you'll often hear caution about is if your child spends another year in that same grade, level, that reduces their amount of transition support that they can get, after being a senior in high school. So that's a trade-off that you have to consider too. The other thing that you could do before you go to a meeting when you want to request that your child repeat a grade is to look up the school district policies. Some school districts have policies about retention. A lot of school districts will use like a checklist that they'll have the parent and the teacher fill out, and they'll kind of use that checklist to help make decisions. So you want to kind of get the inside scoop on what the process is in your district. So then you're prepared when you go to the meeting. Yeah, see, that's like so amazing to me, Kim, that you guys have been full-time all year. But that's good. It's so nice. I bet. Trisha says, I want year-round school. Could COVID or no COVID? My kids could do remote learning in the summer and during natural school week-long breaks. They need that routine. I wish there was an option for IEP kids who had developmental disabilities and SED labels. Yeah, and and ESY is different than COVID. So like when I was saying, if your kids missed out because of COVID, you could ask for compensatory ed. That's like a separate issue than extended school year. And the other thing is, Trisha, you bring up a good point as far as, now I lost my train of thought. It's like, what was that good point? Oh, that it needs to be more than just summer vacations. So many of us kind of have extended school year ingrained as this happens only in the summer, but it can happen. I mean, extended school year services are available during, like if you have a fall break, if you have a winter break, a spring break, those are times when there's no school. And if missing school for that, if you really can be able to show that missing school for that week is going to be detrimental and that your child needs to have it in order to maintain their skills, then you can ask for extended school year services for other breaks during the year, not just summer vacation. So yeah, it's all available. Let's see. Hey, John, she said, or he, sometimes it's the wife, but it's the husband's name. Hi, how are you doing today? But I wish for COVID-19 over by September 2021. I know. I was invited to speak in Virginia in September, and the Virginia Department of Ed already decided, this week that it's just going to be a virtual conference and not in person. And I was surprised, like somebody's already making that decision to change it for September. It's like, please, no, we want to be back together in September, don't you think? Yes. Tamara says, thank you so much, Charmaine. My son went back into the school building since November for 4 days a week. Good. He became too depressed, and the therapeutic program accommodated that. Oh, so your governor is asking the schools to resume in person in April. And just teachers started getting vaccinated yesterday. Huh. That's too bad. Yeah, because here in Idaho, most of the teachers have been vaccinated by now. Yeah, so there's so many different issues, right? And health issues is one of those concerns as far as if you feel comfortable having your child go back full time, what that's going to be like. Hey, Heather. Oh, so she said they use COVID as extenuating circumstance for ESY. Yeah, you can do that. And some districts would rather do that because if it's like somehow in the record that your child got compensatory education services, districts feel like that's a black mark on them or something. They have like this judgment about that. And so for some districts, they're like, fine, we'll call it ESY. The other caution, and Heather, you probably heard me say this before, the other caution I have is when you're looking at ESY services, they need to be individualized like the rest of the year for your child. So you should not be hearing things like, this is the program that the district is offering for ESY. There should not be any set program. Like I hear like, oh, ESY starts June 6th, goes through July 15th, 8:30 to 11:30, 4 days a week. We're off on the 4th of July. It's like they've already predetermined the schedule and the amount of time that your child and anybody else has for ESY. That's a big no-no. So when you ask for compensatory services, sometimes that makes it a little bit easier to make sure that they're really individualized because they don't have like a compensatory education service program this summer going. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's like there's usually more than one way to get to where you're going. So that's good that you're getting your child those services. So let me scroll up here. Christy, it probably has to do with the planning of the logistics. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true. Also is to be able to know how much staff they need. But that's why this spring, when you talk about ESY, extended school year, you want to not just say that your child's eligible and check that box, but you want, and most districts do, like pick specific goals that your child's going to work on so he can maintain that progress. But also to describe what that program looks like. And if your child needs, more than the 3 hours a day that they're offering as far as their district program, then that needs to be discussed, and you need to come up with an agreement, with the IEP team. So yeah, it's all up for discussion, right? Anita, how are you, Anita? She is in Virginia, still working on IEP from September. I know, can you believe it? It's like Groundhog Day, right? We went through an eligibility process in between, and I want the wording they use for what my student can benefit from implemented or translated into accommodations. They were all great things, and I want them accountable. We'll see what response I get. Student requires a small student-teacher ratio, needs reduced reading level, opportunities for retracting, scaffolding, and larger concept broken into smaller units. Student may benefit, and then I think, reteaching, okay. Yeah, so that's the thing. So then are they just basically, like have kept extending her previous IEP? Sometimes, and I don't know for sure for Virginia, I'd have to look it up, but sometimes the parts that you have agreement on the IEP, those can start being implemented. So like some good new ideas aren't like held up all school year. So yeah. And the other thing, Anita, you are a trailblazer. We can brainstorm that some more in our trailblazer group too, because that's like, yeah, that's a nightmare having to schedule more IEP meetings when you started in September. And Kim says, this is exactly how our ESY is. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah, it needs to be individualized. It's not what the district says. And for some kids, like I know when my son Dylan was younger, we wanted the ESY services at the end of summer. So it would help him like, kind of transition and be ready for the fall. So, when the district says our program is from June 6th to July 15th or whatever, that's like not going to work if that time frame doesn't work for your child. And yeah, that means they'll have to hire staff for doing it at another time in the summer, and that's what they need to do. Christy says, yep, we asked for ESY as a polite way of asking for combat services from before COVID. Yeah. And, it's funny, in Idaho, they call them recovery services instead of combat services. And it's interesting. I was hearing an attorney speak the other day about compensatory education. And he was saying that like I said, it's kind of like districts are like, they feel like they're so branded if they like, oh my gosh, what did you do wrong? But compensatory education services doesn't have to be based on somebody made a mistake, somebody's at fault. It's kind of like, what Heather said with extenuating circumstances. I mean, that's what happened, right? We had a pandemic, schools closed. We're not blaming, we're not pointing the finger. We're just saying our child needs to be, compensated and somehow, because that was a lot of loss of learning time. So I think probably a lot of parents this summer will be, using ESY in the IEP as a way to get combat. And to me, it's like, call it what you want to call it. As long as it's individualized, as long as it's going to benefit your child, it's like, go for it, right? Heather says, I haven't begun the conversation about combat. It's on my list for future meeting agendas. Yes, and you've been going through a lot of meetings too. So sometimes it's just good to we can put that off. Kim says she never knew that. Yes, it's interesting. I think, and I'll have to make sure, Kim, I think we have the ebook that I have on ESY in our Trailblazer library, but I'll check and make sure. Anita says, ask for additional help in math, but teachers said their department, oh my gosh, does not have office hours. There are other limited times teacher is available. Wondering if teacher has to offer office hours. Of all the student who needs assistance and extra support, this seems wrong. Yeah, I would check, sometimes Anita, in the student handbook, they'll have a description of, what your teacher is going to offer as far as support, or they might have a blurb on whether or not teachers are required to have office hours. I mean, the other thing, depending on who you feel more comfortable talking with, you could ask the special ed teacher, the counselor that, helps your daughter get her schedule for high school, or an administrator to say, I'm a little confused. My daughter needs some extra help in math. I kind of assumed that the teachers would have office hours, but I'm being told that they don't. Can you clarify that for me? So yeah, talk to somebody about that, because I don't know, what the percentage is. Some high schools will have, when the teacher has a planning prep, that they'll use that as their office hours. But yeah, it just kind of depends on the culture of the building. But even if they don't have office hours, then the issue still is your daughter needs some extra help in math. So then, I mean, that could be something that you talk about at your next frequent IEP meeting, to say, this is the concern. One of the solutions I thought, could be she could go to the math teacher during office hours. That doesn't seem like that exists, so that's not a solution. What other ideas? Do you have a school staff? What can we do here? So don't accept it, because that's not appropriate. Your daughter needs the help. They need to figure out a way to do that. And Anne Marie, I found a fine arts program, dance, yoga, etc. Amanda is going to have fun for 6 weeks. Yes, exactly. I mean, there's lots of ways kids can be learning and having fun while they're learning. And one way that might meet the needs of some kids is to have, an extended school year, services. I almost said the P word, program. But for other kids, it's like, yeah, we're going to play t-ball this summer, and that's going to be fine. He's going to work on communication while he's talking to his teammates, and he's going to work on gross motor skills running around those bases. So it's not like, everything has to be a therapy or an academic, situation over summer. Look at what Park and Rec activities they offer kids, all of that. And plus, it's more inclusive, because that's the problem too with most ESY services is their, grouping of all kids on IEPs. And so for some families, we've advocated for the school district to send a para to the Park and Rec day camp program. And the school district paid for the student to go to the Park and Rec day camp program. Excuse me, in the summer, there was a para there for extra support, obviously paid for by the district. But that was that student's extended school year program. So you don't have to think of this has got to be in the school building on these times. It's like, no, if that isn't an appropriate service for your child, don't accept that. That's my favorite statement. Don't accept that. Tamara, my son was denied COVID-related comp ed without any explanation other than he made progress according to the progress reports. The percentages and the benchmarks show otherwise. Yeah, and so then, Tamara, you have to decide if that is something that you want to pursue. I know a lot of parents I've talked to, it's like, you know what? I don't care. We don't want any more of these services, except I think especially if they would have to be virtual in the summer, because so many families and kids are like really burnt out on virtual learning. So if that's something that they would offer, you know, a lot of parents are saying thanks, no thanks. You can, you know, call for an IEP meeting and ask that there actually be some more discussion about that. Um, but yeah, it's something that's supposed to be discussed. And the Federal Department of Ed has issued different kinds of, you know, letters of guidance for districts, and it specifically talks about there needs to be discussion about compensatory education services. So it's not another one of those boxes they can just, you know, pre-check on the IEP. But, and then, like I said, you have to decide, is this important? Do we have other things that we need to do? Um, yeah. And so then just for you, for your family, for your child, you know, what do you think? Do you want to keep pursuing it, or do you want to just say, okay, let's move on? Okay. And Christy says our special park district will provide an aid if needed for a regular program. How cool is that? So yeah, so there's all kinds of things to be looking at for, you know, if we're going to look ahead to the summer, is, you know, what's offered in your community. And, you know, I think if the, you know, if you can get some extra assistance and it doesn't even have to come from the school district, that might even be nicer, because that's a more natural, you know, support versus a school district person. So yeah, so that's interesting. That would be fun, huh? All righty. Let's see if you have any other questions. Post them in here. Let me go back up and make sure I didn't miss anything. Like I said, this will be our only live show on my Visions and Voices page. Because of spring break, I'm actually gonna like really try to take spring break off from work. What a concept. And IEP meetings. So I won't be able to do any other live shows this month, but I'll be posting in the Visions and Voices Together Facebook page. So you can always get a hold of me there. The other thing I want to make sure you know is I offer free 30-minute phone consultation for parents that I'm not working with. So if that's something you're interested in, you can just go to bookme.name/Charmaine, and you can book a free 30-minute phone call with me. So that might be something that you want to do too, you know, as we go through the month, and if other questions come up and you would like them answered. So let's see. Anne Marie says, thank you. You're welcome. So I think we will call it a wrap. And I wish you well. I hope that this spring season is going to bring, you know, I don't know, wonderful times for your family and your child, and that school is going to be going as smoothly as it has, or even more smoothly. But we will be back for the first Thursday in April. So until then, take care, and I shall see you later.